Chag Sameach. We often hear that the Jewish God is a God of fire and brimstone, a God who destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, who permits no deviation, who punishes, who brings severe judgment. And on Passover, there is that side to our contemplation of the divine. We think of Seder night and what we read this morning as well. But it's not the only way that we experience God on Passover. I once met someone for whom Passover Seders were these key moments in their lives of new beginnings. They met their spouse at a Passover Seder. There were several moments in their life where Passover Seder marked either a time when they stopped being involved in Judaism or recommitting to Judaism in a much more powerful way. And maybe of every single day, maybe even more than Yom Kippur, Passover is that time of year where Jews of all kinds look to reconnect and to renew their faith. And there are those who are very little involved with Judaism the rest of the year, but when it's time for Passover to come, they do whatever they can to find a Seder, or their relative gives them a little nudge and says, it's time for you to go find a Seder. And that's because Passover is also about that feeling of reconnection, of renewal, of coming back to our people, to our story, to our God. And this is how our sages understood this holiday that's also called Chag HaAviv, right? The holiday of spring, the holiday of renewal. It's a time in the Passover story, not only when the Jews left Egypt and slavery ended and freedom came and all those things we talk about. There was also a time where they got to know what it means to be a Jew. They had no idea what it meant to be a Jew, but this was when they came to know what it means to be a Jew. And the way our tradition imagines it is when them and God got to know each other a little bit. It was their dating. And the passage of the Red Sea that we read this morning is actually understood as the mikvah sometimes before they got married at Sinai. It was a time of commitment. And this is the way Passover has always been seen, as a time of recommitment and of thinking about renewing and coming to it from a fresh place. And if you read the Tanakh, the Bible, there are many times, and we read some of these during Haftarot, during the holiday, many times, whenever kings of Judah usually wanted to bring the people back for a great celebration, for a recommitment to God, they would observe a great big Passover and they would fulfill it as their ancestors did, and they would follow the customs and offer the Pesach offering, and everybody would come together and they would throw away all the idols. And Passover was the moment when they would say, I am back in to my faith. And so Passover is about that rapprochement, and also not just a rapprochement, but a courtship. You're bringing back the spice into the connection. As Jeremiah says, when we remember the days of our youth, when we ran after God into the desert, not knowing where we were going, and finding that wonder and that faith and trying to retie the knot, as we say. And there's a story, when the children of Israel finally did arrive in the land. We come to the end of the Torah every year and then we go back to the beginning, but they do enter the land. And when they enter the land, one of the very first things they do is they observe Passover. And then when they finish taking the land, conquering the land, they all gather on two mountains in the middle of the country, Mount Eval and Mount Gerizim. Half the people on one mountain, half the people on the other. And they say all the blessings that will come their way, and they'll say all the curses that will come their way if they take care of each other, if they observe, if they stay connected to their God and to their people, and all the curses if they do not. And they had with them stones that were brought with them from that first Passover when they entered the land and crossed the river. And it was all about writing on those stones the vows that they were taken in the Torah. Because sometimes you have to revisit your vows. You have to revisit where you're coming from and what it's all about. Because one forgets day after day, year after year, decade, century, millennia after millennia, you forget what it's all about. This is what Shir Shirim, the Song of Songs, why we sing it on Passover. We'll chant it tomorrow on the Shabbat, Dodi Li, right? Originally it was a love poem, but the rabbis thought we need to bring this aspect into Judaism. It's about love. Let's not forget it's about love. And Rabbi Akiva says, this is the holy of holies of all the books, because it's about the love of the Jewish people and their God. And we shouldn't forget that love through all those years, and to remind ourselves to go back to that covenant and to renew ourselves in our relationship for a new beginning. So one element of that love is like the love of Shir Shirim, but it's not the only element of the love. Jeremiah also speaks, and we read this in another time of the year, when we also reconnect to our people, our faith, our God. Haben Yakirli Ephraim, right? Is Ephraim a darling? Ephraim is a Jewish people. Is Ephraim a darling son unto me? Is he a child that is dandled? For as often as I speak of him, I do earnestly remember him still. Therefore my heart yearneth for him. I will surely have compassion upon him, saith the Lord. And so we're also, in one sense, evoking the relationship of parent and child, but even more of a parent and a baby, a completely unconditional love. Trying to find ourselves within that. And thinking about how much a parent yearns for their child and loves their child. And also how beautiful a child is. As a Jewish people, to remember our beauty, the beauty of a child, the sweetness of a child. And to think of everything we've been through, but still retain that quality and everything we've accomplished and all the grace we've been shown and the faith we ourselves have shown, of the mission that we've been given and the tears that we've shed trying to do our part of that mission, but also the redemptions we have experienced through all of it. And we've grown a lot, but yet on some level we're still that baby being dandled. And it's easy to forget that connection and that joy and just become something completely insignificant and abstract and personal. But on Passover, we try to reconnect to that vision of what it's like, those elements, what our relationship to God is supposed to be like, us and our beloved. We're so busy with the fire and brimstone and caught up in all of those questions and thoughts, we forget the romance, the courtship, the joy of it. It's perhaps not stressed enough in Judaism. But Passover is there to remind ourselves of those early days, of the beloved, of the sacrifices we made for each other, the love of our divine parent, how much we've received and how much we ourselves have grown. And also just the joy of spring and of renewal, of the new life and the new paths that we walk on in our lives and in all of our relationships that we strive to. And the great love and the end binds all beings. And how that love can transform once it's kindled in our hearts, not just our relationship, but all parts of our life, all of our relationships, how it can change every aspect of our life, all of our moments of togetherness and all of our solitudes and all of our work, all of our thoughts. And all, so this once a year we can connect to bring the vitality and joy and to take from us into the world and make our world more fulfilled in a place of greater peace and joy. Chag Sameach.